Oh my goodness! He just did that!
The San Antonio Spurs are a legit title contender. So you got shooters, you got athletes. You've got a collection of individuals who have bought in defensively because they're anchored by the premier defensive player in.
Last season, everything that could go wrong for the San Antonio Spurs seemed to go wrong. They lost their head coach to a serious health scare, so their franchise superstar sidelined by a blood clot, and ended the year near the bottom of the Western Conference, finishing 13th. Most teams would have spent years trying to recover from setbacks like that, but one season later, the story couldn't be more different. The Spurs have surged all the way to second place in the Western Conference. They've proven they can beat the league's elite, taking 4 or 5 matchups against OKC and knocking off the top team in the East, the Detroit Pistons. And what's even more frightening for the rest of the NBA is that this team is only getting started. 3 of San Antonio's most important players are just 22, 21, and 19 years old. This isn't a lucky run. This isn't a hot streak. What we're watching is a result of a plan that has been years in the making, a plan that survived a franchise-altering medical scare. A plan that included a blockbuster trade almost nobody predicted. A plan that had to navigate a coaching transition that could have completely thrown the organization off course. Somehow, instead of falling apart, every piece came together. And while everyone focuses on Victor Wembanyama, and understandably so, because talent like his come around once in a generation, this story is about much more than one superstar. That it's about an organization that has spent decades mastering the art of sustainable success. The Spurs didn't just find another franchise player. They built an entire foundation around him. They identified the right young talent, made bold moves when the opportunity presented itself, and stayed patient while the rest of the league chased shortcuts. Now that foundation is turning into something special, because this isn't just one of the NBA's best young teams. It might be the league's next dynasty in the making. So how did San Antonio go from a lottery to becoming one of the most dangerous teams in basketball? How did every major decision, from the tank to the draft picks, to the trades, to the coaching changes, lead them to this moment? Let's break down the complete blueprint behind the Spurs' rise and how they built what could become the NBA's scariest young squad.
Another steal. Stephon Castle, gear up for showtime! Castle climbs the ladder!
Harper with space, still at Harper! The harm in the hoop!
Wembanyama, what a play! Off the glass!
Before Victor Wembanyama ever put on a Spurs jersey, San Antonio had already started laying the foundation for what was coming next. The dynasty that defined an entire era was finally over. Tim Duncan retired in 2016, and by 2018, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Kawhi Leonard were all gone through retirement, free agency, or the infamous standoff that also sent Danny Green out of town. In return, the Spurs received DeMar DeRozan, Jakob Poeltl, and a future first-round pick that eventually became Keldon Johnson. But despite those additions, San Antonio found itself stuck in the NBA's most dangerous place, the middle. They were too good to land elite draft talent and not good enough to seriously contend. After a 48-win season in 2019, the team slowly declined, missing the playoffs year after year as the franchise's historic postseason streak finally came to an end. Behind the scenes, however, the Spurs weren't panicking. They were planning. The organization took an honest look at its future and realized chasing mediocrity wasn't a path back to contention. They needed a new direction. The first signs appeared during the 2020 Orlando bubble when Greg Popovich shifted away from veterans and handed larger roles to young players like DeJounte Murray, Derek White, Lonnie Walker, and Keldon Johnson. The team became faster, more versatile, and more modern. San Antonio embraced a philosophy built around positionless basketball, multiple playmakers, switchable defenders, and players who could dribble, pass, and shoot regardless of position. Every draft pick reflected that vision. Devin Vassell, Trey Jones, Josh Primo, Jeremy Sochin, and Malachi Branham were all selected with versatility and upside in mind. But the Spurs knew drafting alone wouldn't be enough. To maximize their long-term future, they needed assets and flexibility. That meant making difficult decisions. DeMar DeRozan was moved in a sign-in trade. Derek White was sent to Boston for valuable draft compensation. Then came the blockbuster that shocked the NBA, homegrown all-star DeJounte Murray was traded to Atlanta for a massive package of future first-round picks and swaps. Jakob Poeltl was later moved back to Toronto for even more draft capital. To many fans, it looked like a teardown. In reality, it was a carefully calculated rebuild designed to create multiple pathways back to contention. Everything the Spurs had done was leading toward one critical moment: the 2023 NBA Draft. After finishing with one of the league's worst records, the lottery balls finally bounced their way. Victor Wembanyama arrived, giving San Antonio the franchise-changing superstar they had spent years positioning themselves to acquire. But unlike many rebuilding teams, the Spurs never abandoned their culture. They never emptied the roster or sacrificed the standard that had defined the organization for decades. They maintained structure, protected their flexibility, and surrounded their young players with guidance. That's why veterans like Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes were later brought in, not to carry the team, but to accelerate the development of the future. The result is what we're seeing today. Not just a talented young roster, but a carefully constructed contender built to last. The Spurs rebuild didn't accelerate because of luck. It accelerated because they are prepared for every opportunity years in advance. Veteran leaders like Chris Paul helped establish the structure young stars needed, mentoring players such as Stephon Castle while instantly developing chemistry with Victor Wembanyama. Meanwhile, San Antonio's stockpile of draft assets allowed them to strike when the opportunity arose, acquiring De'Aaron Fox without sacrificing the core pieces they believed in. Then, against the odds, the Spurs landed the second pick in the 2025 draft and selected Dylan Harper, adding yet another elite young talent to a roster already loaded with upside. But what makes this rise so impressive is that it wasn't built on a single move. It was built on layers of flexibility, patience, and long-term planning. The picks acquired in the DeJounte Murray trade are still generating value. The roster remains one of the youngest in the league, and yet the Spurs have already climbed to the top tier of the Western Conference. Even after losing Greg Popovich to a stroke, seeing Victor Wembanyama sidelined by deep vein thrombosis, and dealing with injuries to multiple key players, San Antonio never lost its direction. The culture held, the development continued, and the vision remained intact. That's why this team isn't just a great young story. It's becoming one of the most dangerous teams in the entire NBA. What makes the Spurs story so remarkable isn't just where they are now, it's everything they had to overcome to get here. After Victor Wembanyama's frightening blood clot diagnosis cut short his season, many wonder how long it would take him to return to form. The answer? About one game. He opened the new season looking better than ever, dominating opponents with a level of strength, control, and confidence we hadn't seen before. At the same time, Mitch Johnson stepped into an impossible situation following Greg Popovich's stroke, and somehow kept the franchise moving forward. Under his leadership, San Antonio has evolved into one of the most complete teams in basketball. The addition of defensive coordinator Sean Sweeney transformed the bottom-tier defense into an elite unit, while the young core of Wembanyama, Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, Devin Vassell, and De'Aaron Fox has given the Spurs a perfect blend of present production and future potential. And that's what separates this rebuild from so many others. Not every draft pick worked. Not every gamble paid off. But the Spurs stayed patient, adapted when necessary, and never lost sight of the bigger picture. 2 years ago, they were at the bottom of the Western Conference. Today, they are second in the West, one of the league's best teams on both ends of the floor, and legitimate championship contenders. A generational superstar, an elite young supporting cast, a mountain of future draft assets, and a culture that refuses to break. This isn't a team that's ahead of schedule anymore. This is a team that has officially arrived. And the scary part? They might just be getting